Hello and welcome to my knitting podcast. My name is Jessica McDonald. I'm a knitting pattern designer and I'm coming to you from a tiny town in the mountains of Idaho. It has been quite a long time since my last podcast, but I have been designing and knitting away even though I haven't been sharing it here on YouTube, and I have quite a bit to show you today. I'm not going to show you everything that I have knitted in my absence. I've decided that I'm going to film a little more frequently from now on, just kind of stick it in my schedule and make it a priority. So I'm going to save a couple things for my next podcast because I have two finished sweaters that I'm not going to show you today. I have two finished sweaters that I am going to show you today, and I have a whip that I'm also going to show you today, and also the yarn from my my little flock of Finnsheep has come back, so I'll show you the yarn as well. So if you like knitting content and you want to see all about my knitting projects and my designs, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and of course sign up for my email newsletter. The link is right down below this video in the description box. If you sign up for my email newsletter, check your inbox for the welcome email. It has a discount code for 20% off your first purchase for you. So first of all, let's start with the finished object that I'm wearing. This is the In the Garden tee. Every March or so, like February, March-ish, I get a really serious itch to knit something summery. And short sleeved, lightweight. I love to wear something like on cooler days when it's not quite as hot as I want it to be. I like to have a little t-shirt to throw on over a dress or with a pair of shorts or something, so I've got a little bit of warmth, but I'm not like full-on worsted weight sweater yet. You know, this little tee is in fingering weight yarn. It's cute. The flowers make it summery. It's got an easygoing shape. It's a little bit loose fitting, so I can layer it all over all kinds of things. But it's not like cozy winter sweater you wear during a blizzard in January. I just like to have a little tee. It's fun to think about while I'm knitting it, even though it's still really cold. And it's fun to wear in the summer on those days that are just a little bit chilly. But usually I only want to knit one summer thing per year. By the time it actually gets warm again, I really want to knit cozy sweaters again. So I knitted this back during my summer knitting urge in February and March. And now that it's summertime, I can wear it and I can share it with you. I know most people like to knit summer things in the summer, but I'm a little bit odd in that I like to knit summer things while it's still late winter and I'm just really sick of winter and I want it to be warm. So here's the In the Garden tee. It is inspired by an August garden when you go out to your garden and everything has spilled out of the beds and there's cosmos leaning over and cucumbers everywhere and things are just completely out of hand and you have to carefully step over things and wade through different paths because your garden has just exploded. The In the Garden tee is inspired by that. Like, it's just bountiful and flowers everywhere and fruit everywhere and the buzzing bees and all of that. That's what I kind of wanted to capture in the color work that's at the hem of this sweater. I'm going to stand up to show it to you. This skirt doesn't match, but I didn't feel like changing. So here's the color work at the hem. It's really tightly packed. It's really happy and just, I don't know, joyful and spilling over and packed full of goodness. So there's the color work at the hem. Let me move my chair. The editing department doesn't know how to insert B-roll and doesn't feel like learning how. I am the editing department. So the In the Garden tee is the top-down drop shoulder. I've seen it described a number of different ways, but it's where you cast on for the back neck. You work a bunch of increases till it's as wide as it needs to be. Work straight, pick up the shoulders, work the front, join it together, knit straight down. So it's from the top down. It's got these drop shoulders. Let me turn so you can see. Awkwardly turn. You've got this line here. That's created by the increases as you're working the back increases. There's no special thing to create that little detail. It's just as you're working the back increases, there's one stitch between where you pick up and where the increases are worked, so that gives you that little line of detail. And then you knit in the round until you have this beautiful color work. Originally, I was going to do every section a different color, but I decided that that was a little bit too chaotic, and it just felt like it was too much to me, and I preferred it in one color. But if you really wanted to dial up the exuberance, you could do every single little flower a different color, and you could move through a bunch of different colors, and then this would be even punchier. Some of my test knitters used spin cycle, you know, the color changing spin cycle yarn to knit the color work, and that turned out really pretty because you kind of go through a fade as you knit through the ball of spin cycle. So if you have some spin cycle and you're looking for the project to do it, then this might be the one. I'm running out of breath because I'm talking so fast. The yarn I used for this sweater was Holst Garn Supersoft. This was recommended to me by someone, and I finally have used it. I used Silver Mist is the color of the main color, and Elderberry is the color of the flowers. This yarn is unwashed, so as I was knitting with it, it felt really dry and crisp. The main color I knit off of a cone. The contrast color I knit from one of the little 50-gram skeins. It felt really dry and kind of crunchy. It didn't have any bounce to it at all. I'm gonna be honest, my color work looked like absolute garbage as I was knitting it, just because the yarn is unwashed. So they spin it, and when you spin yarn, there's spinning oils and some other things that they put in the yarn so that they can manage it and work with it. And usually a mill will wash the yarn after they've spun it, but Holst Garn doesn't wash this after they've spun it. So when you block it for the first time, that's when you're also washing out all of the spinning oils that are in the yarn. And so I apologize for this little jolt in the filming, but my battery died, and so I had to put a new one in and all of that. So I was talking about my experience knitting with the Holst Garn Supersoft, which was an unwashed yarn. When I read that it was unwashed, I was comparing it to my experience of knitting with the unwashed Harrisville Designs Highland that I knit my Northerly with. Highland, when you buy Highland, you can get it in skeins or you can buy it in a cone. The cones are not washed, the skeins are washed, but the color I wanted was out of stock in the skeins, so I bought it in the cones, and I thought it would be the same thing. And the cones are unwashed. Knitting with that yarn unwashed was kind of annoying because it was a little bit greasy and it kept tangling on itself, like it kept twisting on itself, and it kept getting knots in it all on its own. Just as I was knitting, I was trying to pull as little as possible, working yarn off of the cone as I was working, and it just got to the point where I was so annoyed with the whole process of knitting with that unwashed yarn that I just wound it into giant skeins and washed it and then knit with it. So I was wondering if the Holst Garn was going to be the same experience as the Highland was, and it wasn't. The Highland must have a different spinning oil in it than the Holst Garn Supersoft does, because the Supersoft, it has a really dry, crunchy feel to it, but it doesn't twist up on itself, and it doesn't tangle up on itself. So even though it felt dry and crunchy, which isn't my favorite feeling as I'm knitting, it was okay, and I knew that it would block out okay. It didn't tangle, so I could knit pretty much like normal. I didn't have to manage how much working yarn I pulled out, and I didn't have to wash it or anything. But another big impact that it had on my knitting, since it was unwashed, is my color work looked pretty terrible as I was knitting it. Usually when I knit color work, I've knit a lot of color work. Usually when I knit color work, it's pretty smooth, it's pretty even. I'm pretty good at managing my tension. But no matter what I did, the color work at the bottom of this tee looked pretty bad. But I knew that when I blocked it, the spinning oils would get washed out and the fibers would bloom, the yarn would bloom, and it would be beautiful, which is another reason why you should definitely knit a swatch before you knit something, because I knit a swatch and I knit part of it in color work and I blocked it. So I knew how it looked before blocking, and I knew how it would look after blocking, so I persevered and I kept going. And at the end of the day, it created this really beautiful fabric. You can see how smooth the colorwork section is. It's really smooth, it's really cohesive. It just turned out beautiful in blocking. But if you are knitting colorwork in Supersoft and you're not happy with how it looks, just give it a block, because that fixes so much here. Fixes so much. The fabric is really lightweight and airy because it is a woolen spun yarn, so it's really lightweight, it's airy, it's soft. It's not a buttery soft like a merino is. There is a little bit of texture to it. I feel awkward petting myself. It's not super soft, like buttery soft like a merino. It's not silky soft. It is soft though, but it does have a little more of a woolly feeling to it, just so you know. But I am really pleased with how this turned out because it's really lightweight, it's really airy. I've got plenty of positive ease in it, so I can throw it on over a bunch of different dresses. I can wear it with shorts. I've knit it long enough that I could wear it with shorts. I also knit it, it's a little bit shorter than I usually knit things that I knit just to wear with jeans. That way I can wear it with skirts and dresses, and also if I want to wear it with pants or shorts, I can do that. So it can kind of be worn in multiple different places in my wardrobe. There it is. Isn't it lovely? I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. I released the pattern for this tee a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And I meant to film a podcast to share it with you as I was releasing the pattern so that you would be able to take advantage of the discount period. Since I was way too busy to do that at the time, I've decided I'm going to share with you a discount code here. So you can use the code GARDEN and it will get you 20% off of the In the Garden tee for the first week that this video is up on YouTube. So if you're watching it after this first week period, you can sign up for my email newsletter and there's a 20% off discount code in there that you can use. When you sign up for my email newsletter, you get a special discount when I release new patterns. So there is an advantage to being signed up for that. So if you're interested in this pattern, I'll put links to it in the description box down below, and you can use the code GARDEN for a week after this video is posted, and you can knit yourself your own. Now I am going to move on to my next finished object, which is the Shepherdess cardigan. I'm going to put this on real quick. Here is the Shepherdess cardigan. I'm going to move my hair because I know that people will say move your hair so we can see the neckline. This cardigan is special because it is knit in yarn made from my Finnsheep flocks wool. So I have a little tiny sheep farm. We don't have very many sheep. We have less than 30 sheep, somewhere between 20 and 30. I don't know the exact number right now. We have a little fiber farm of Finnsheep, and we have their fleeces turned into yarn. This is this year's batch. And I decided I wanted to knit myself something from their yarn, and that is where the Shepherdess cardigan comes from. Finnsheep yarn is not very common. You can find it from small fiber farms, and I know that Bare Naked Wools has their Finn Dandy base, but it's not a fiber that you can find in a lot of places. It's kind of hard to, well, it's uncommon, and it's kind of hard to get because it's uncommon. It's a bit of a rare breed at this point. So I didn't know quite what would work well with this yarn, so I did a lot of swatching over the winter. I did a lot of thinking, and finally I came up with this cardigan, which is quite basic, but sometimes the most basic thing is beautiful. Finnsheep fiber is really silky and really drapey. The closest common fiber I can think to compare it to would be BFL, Blue Face Luster. It has a lot of luster, it's shiny, it's silky, so it doesn't work well in a highly textured pattern because it doesn't have a lot of stitch definition. It's also in a really dark color. This is the natural undyed color of the fleeces, so this is the blend of all of their fleeces in a pot, and it came out this color. So since it's dark and it's really drapey, it doesn't work well with textured patterns. They wouldn't pop and they wouldn't show up like you want them to, so it wouldn't photograph really well. So textured patterns were completely out. And I didn't want to do something that was really, I don't know, fussy or weird or difficult. I wanted something that would let the yarn, the properties of the yarn really shine. And so I decided on a very simple cardigan. So this is the Shepherdess cardi. The official name is just going to be Shepherdess, but I call it the Shepherdess cardi. I'm going to stand up so you can see it in all of its glory. This skirt is from Not Perfect Linen, by the way. It is a top-down raglan. It has a V-neck construction, and I have a little bit wider button band on here. I wanted to do a wider button band. I just thought that would look really elegant with the V-neck and the simple otherwise construction and design. And then for the sleeves, they have a little bit of ease in them. They're not super snug on your arm, and they come down to this little bit of volume. Maybe I'll turn sideways. This little bit of volume right before the cuff. So you work straight for a bit, then you work some decreases for a bit, and then right before the cuff, you work some rapid decreases so that you have this little bit of volume here. I think it looks really elegant and pretty. It's feminine, but it's not huge. Like when you do volume here, the poet sleeve, I think it's called, I think most of the time you just work the entire sleeve straight and then do a whole bunch of increases right before the cuff. But I don't like that because then you have a lot of excess fabric here in the forearm, and it's just really big and floppy right here, and it gets in the way. Like you can't put a coat on, you can't, you know, cut up an apple or anything because your sleeve gets in the way. So I worked some gentle decreases in the sleeve. So there's some volume in it, but it's not overly large. You can still put your coat on over the sweater. You can still make yourself lunch. It's very practical and wearable, and I think it looks really nice. The cuff is tight. I like a tight cuff. I don't like it when cold air gets up in my sleeves. I also don't like it when it's super loose because then it gets into things and it drags around. And I am somebody who wears my sweaters every single day. This is what I wear. I don't knit myself a beautiful stack of sweaters and then put on a sweatshirt and sweatpants and go around the house just in a sweatshirt. I wear my sweaters every day, basically for 9 months out of the year. So when I am designing things, I want to make sure that it's wearable and practical, because I don't want to spend a bunch of time knitting a sweater that the sleeves are in the way and I can't wear it because I have to make my kids lunch every day, so I can't be wearing something with giant sleeves that make it impossible to make lunch. I did the buttons the buttonholes the exact same way I did it on the Tamarack cardigan. It's a vertical slit buttonhole here. You can see it there. I really like how refined it looks. And then these buttons, there is a story in these buttons. These are from Shop La Mercerie, and when I went to shop for buttons, they had 5 in stock and I needed 6, but I really liked them. So I ordered the 5 that they had, and I ordered another option as well. And then this cardigan sat on the desk waiting for me to sew on the buttons for like 2 months. And in the amount of time that I procrastinated sewing on the buttons, my preferred button style came back into stock, and so I was able to order the last one that I needed. They have this, they're a dark gray or black, and then they have this little tan edge on it. The edge has kind of washed off a little bit, which they warned in the listing that it would, but I mean, I need to wash the sweaters. I decided I would be okay with that, but I still like it. They're kind of muted, and they have a matte finish to them. The other ones were a little bit shiny, and I just liked this pairing better. So procrastinating on sewing on the buttons turned out to be a happy ending because I got the ones that I preferred. Oh, and another thing, I think I mentioned this in my last episode, but I knit the second sleeve on the wrong needle size. when I knit a sweater, I'll knit the body, the yoke and the body in one sleeve, and then I have all of the knitting done that I need to finalize the pattern. So I did all that, and then I set the project aside and worked on something else, and then I came back to finish the sleeve. And when I came back to knit the second sleeve, I accidentally grabbed the needle size for the ribbing instead of my working needle. So I was working on a needle 2 sizes too small. And when I knit a sleeve, I just copy the exact same thing I did for the first one. So I'll knit the same number of rows between pickup and the first decrease. And then I'll knit the same number of rows between each decrease. And then I'll count from the last decrease to the cuff how many rows I knit in the first sleeve, and I'll knit that same number of rows. And then I'll knit the same number of rows in the ribbing. I'll count how many rows of ribbing I did on the first sleeve, and I'll knit the exact same number of rows. I basically just count the rows and perfectly copy the second, like perfectly copy the first sleeve when I'm knitting the second sleeve. I don't measure it. I never pull out my measuring tape and measure it or count stitches. Beyond picking up the sleeve, I don't count stitches. I just copy the exact same thing I did on the first sleeve, and I did that on the second sleeve. And then when I came down to the cuff, usually when I get down to the cuff, I'll fold the sweater so I can lay both sleeves on top of each other and compare to make sure I'm double checking my work before I finish it off completely. And when I did that this time, the second sleeve was like 3 inches shorter than the first sleeve. And I could not figure out what I had done wrong. I counted the rows in my sleeves like 5 times. I counted every single row in the first sleeve and every single row in the second sleeve. And it was the exact same number of rows. It was the exact same number of decreases. There was no reason why the second sleeve was smaller or shorter, significantly shorter than the first sleeve. And so I thought, well, maybe it's because I blocked the sweater after I knit the first sleeve. So maybe it's because the second sleeve isn't blocked and I just need to block it. So I'll just finish the ribbing and I'll move on and we'll figure it out. And so when I went into my knitting bag to find the needles for the ribbing, I pulled out that needle case. So this is a bit of a tangent now. When I'm knitting a project, I just keep the needles in their original packaging. And when I start a new project, I put in all of the needles that I will need for that project in my knitting bag, right when I'm starting the project. And so I dug in my knitting bag and I pulled out the package that should have had the ribbing needle in it, and it was empty. And then I looked at my needles and I realized I had used the wrong size needle to knit the entire sleeve, the entire second sleeve. So I had to rip it out and reknit the entire sleeve again. But it turned out okay the second time because I used the right needle size. So this is the yarn from last year. So we send our yarn, we send our fleeces from our sheep to a mill in Belgrade, Montana, which is about 4 hours away from us. And this is last year's batch. There is no longer any yarn from last year left. This is this year's batch. It just got here 2 weeks ago? Not even 2 weeks ago. Last year we only had a gray. We only had yarn from 6 sheep and I had 54 skeins that I could offer to you all. This year, I think it's 18 fleeces that we sent in, and I've only counted the brown. I have 80 skeins of brown, and I have roughly twice as much of gray. So I know I have 80 skeins of brown, and I have roughly 160 skeins of gray this year. This is this year's gray, and this is this year's brown. So Finnsheep can come in white, as all sheep do. But Finnsheep can also have naturally colored fleeces. And they also have a bunch of different color patterns, kind of like a Shetland sheep. So Shetland sheep and Finnsheep are somewhat related. They're both northern short-tailed sheep. Shetland sheep are from Shetland and Finnsheep are from Finland. So they are kind of similar, but they have some differences. Their fleeces are different. Finnsheep don't have horns. Finnsheep are a little bit friendlier than Shetland sheep, but they are very similar breeds in terms of their color variation and their pattern variation and their size and their hardiness. So we have some brown sheep. We had 6 brown sheep. 6 brown sheep? No. 7 or 8. We had some number of brown sheep with brown fleeces. And so we made 1 batch of brown and 1 batch of gray. And this is the color the brown turned out. So this is just the natural color. This Lavon at the mill, she just takes, you know, all of the brown, throws it in the pot, the carder, and just mix it, or I guess it would be the picker where it's all mixed together. And it's all just mixed together, and this is the color it turns out. It's not dyed at all. So this is the natural brown color that we have this year, and this is the natural gray color that we have this year. And I will show you a comparison. Here are the 2 colors side by side. This is last year's gray. This is this year's gray. Last year's gray has a bit of a warmer undertone to it. They're roughly the same tone, like color tone, but last year's gray has a little bit of a more warm feel to it, and this year's gray has a lot more silver tone to it. We've got quite a few badger patterned sheep over last year, and the badger patterning, the sheep that have the badger patterning tend to have a really silvery, shiny fleece. And since this year's batch had some badger pattern fleeces in it, I think that's why this year's batch of yarn has a lot more of a silvery undertone to it versus last year's. So here they are, side by side comparison. You can see the difference in the color. They're roughly the same tone, but this one is more silvery and this one is warmer, like it has a little more brown undertone to it. So the fleeces, the yarn is not washed at the mill, and like we were just talking about with spinning oils and all of that jazz, I am going to wash all of the yarn before I put it up on my website for sale. My mom is coming next week, and we are going to spend a day washing all of the yarn, all of the brown. So this is not a full skein of the brown, you can see it's smaller. This is the tester skein from when she was setting up the mill equipment to spin it correctly. So it's not a full skein. I'll use it for something that I want to do with it, but I'm not gonna sew you the tester skein. It's a worsted weight, 3-ply. It's spun really beautifully. She makes a gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. I grew the sheep and I sent her the fleeces, but the lady at the mill deserves a lot of credit for this beautiful yarn because the spinning on this yarn is absolutely gorgeous. It's worsted weight, 3-ply, just absolutely beautiful. But I need to wash it. So next week, my mom and I are going to be washing a giant pile of yarn. All of the brown is already on reusable zip ties. I made my children help me do that. Put them to work. Don't worry about them too much, they get paid. And yeah, we'll just set up a giant clothesline in my garden where I have a really tall fence so I can hang it high enough that it doesn't drag on the ground, and we will just wash yarn. So I'm really excited about this. But I am now in a bit of a pickle because I have to choose which color to keep, because I want to keep yarn every year to knit myself something with. I'm sorry, but my battery died again, and I'm not really sure what is going on because I also have it plugged in, so it shouldn't be dying like this. I'm really sorry, you guys. But I was just saying, I need to pick a color. I'm probably going to pick the gray because I prefer gray to brown. If you've been around a lot, you'll notice that I really like the color gray. So I'm probably going to choose the gray to knit a pattern in. Now, this pattern that I've knit out of last year's batch, the Shepherdess cardi, I'm going to release this pattern right alongside when I release the yarn. And if you buy 5 skeins of yarn, which 5 skeins of yarn is the minimum yardage requirement to knit this sweater, if you buy 5 skeins of yarn, I'm going to include the pattern for the Shepherdess cardigan for free to those of you who've bought the 5 skeins you need to knit it. So if you buy 5 skeins, you get a copy of the pattern for free. Or if you don't want to buy the yarn, you can just buy the pattern and knit it with whatever yarn you choose. So I will knit, so using this year's batch, I will knit another design to release alongside next year's batch of yarn to offer for free with people who buy enough yarn to knit the pattern. So when you buy 5 skeins of yarn, you get the pattern for free. So that's next week's work, is washing all of the yarn and getting everything ready to release the yarn and to release the Shepherdess cardigan, which the test knit is now done and the patterns are done, and the patterns turned out gorgeous. We took the pattern is done and the pictures are done. The pictures turned out gorgeous. We took them in the sheep pasture, and some of the sheep cooperated for a little bit of the time, so there are some photos with the sheep actually in the photo with the sweater and the sheep and the whole thing. So it's really pretty. Which I will share that with you all in the future. There is my sweater, my last FO I want to show you today, and my yarn, which it's very soft and silky. But I do have to tell you, there is basically no vegetable matter in this. It is a farm yarn. It has not been chemically treated with the carbonization process that is usually done to yarn to remove all of the vegetable matter. However, there is basically no vegetable matter in this yarn. My husband and I went insanely overboard with our skirting. We had never seen anyone skirt before, so we really didn't know what we were doing. And we spent countless hours trying to pick out every tiny little bit of hay and straw and anything out of the fleeces. And when we took the fleeces to the mill, we talked to a lady about what we were doing, and she's like, oh no, you don't need to do that, just take out the big stuff, and then when it goes through the carding machine, when it's combing all of the fibers, all of the little stuff falls out. So that's one of the reasons why I did not have time to film before now, is because I spent so much time skirting fleeces. But you can be assured that even though this is it's not a chemical, this is a natural farm yarn that has not been through any harsh chemical processes. There is really, let's say limited, because here's a little piece of hay. It just has a really limited vegetable matter content in this yarn. There's not much barn in this yarn because it was skirted very, very well. Next year's batch going to be skirted less well, and I will have more time, and the carder will just take care of it all. So now let's talk about my current whip that I'm going to share with you. Actually, this is my only whip. I have 2 other FOs that I will share with you probably in the next episode. This is my only whip that I have, and it's kind of terrifying, you guys, because I've only got the sleeves left, and I've got like a good chunk of the first one done. This sweater pattern is called Deep Moss, and I am knitting it in Sonder Yarn Co. Sunday Morning DK. It is a BFL mash and blend, and it is really drapey and silky, and it works well with this design. It's a really dark green, so you can't see much on it, but I really love dark green. You may know that if you've been here for a while. This is a basic, simple, all-over stockinette sweater. The magic is the shoulders are shaped by a short row. This is the same construction method that I used in Northerly. You cast on all of the stitches for the back. You work short rows, but let's show you the back since I'm talking about it. You work short rows on either side to shape the shoulder slope. Then you knit straight to the bottom of the arm. Then you pick up the front stitches along the shoulder line. I've told you where to put a marker at the edge of the neck so you can pick up so many stitches from the marker to the outside. You pick up the front stitches, you work short rows again to shape the shoulder slope. Then you work neckline shaping. Then you put that on hold, pick up the other shoulder, do the same thing, cast on for the bottom of the neckline, and then you knit straight to the bottom of the yoke. Then you join it in the round and knit down. The body is just in the round, very simple. And then you pick up your sleeves and knit a normal sleeve. This is the construction that I came up with for the northerly sweater, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And as I was knitting the northerly sweater, I thought this would look really good as a plain, basic, simple sweater, no embellishment, no color work, no texture, no cables, just a basic sweater with really fantastic shoulder shaping in a nice drapey yarn, and it would look so good. And so that is what I'm doing. But another thing that I'm doing with the deep moss sweater is I am filming a class on how to do it. So you may have seen my class on how to knit Jane, your first cardigan, and how to knit your first pullover, which is wood smoke, like the 4 to 6 hour full sweater, deeply intense. We're doing this whole thing together, and you can do this without ever having knit a sweater before. I'm doing that again with deep moss. So if you like this sweater, but you're nervous about the short rows, or you like northerly is another finished object that I will show you in a future episode. If you like that one and you really want to knit it, but the short row shaping on the shoulders has you nervous, there is going to be a really intense video that will show you exactly how to do it. Like, we will do the whole thing together. So you will see exactly how it's done, and you will get all of the help you need so that you can do it, and it's easy. I know a lot of people are scared of short rows, which is why I use that shaping where you work the increases on the back, like I did in the garden. But I don't want you to be scared of them, because it opens up a whole new world of knitting when you master short rows. Or not really master them. When you're comfortable doing short rows, it opens up a whole world of sweater patterns and shaping and beautiful things that you can do with short rows. And I don't want you to be scared of that. So you can see the shoulder slope here. This is created with short rows. Doesn't it look beautiful? Doesn't it look beautiful? And the fit of it is so good. And that's one of the reasons why I really like this construction. It's because when I put my finished northerly on, it sits so nice. It sits better than, let me grab this real quick and turn it right side round. I just took it off and tossed it on the table. Oh, you can see that I missed one of the ends, but we just won't talk about that. This shaping where you cast on for the back neck and then you work increases, this kind of pulls everything to the back, and it sits fine because knitted fabric is flexible, and if it's loose enough and drapey enough, it sits just fine. But the way I've shaped the short rows on this sits better. It just does. It just sits better. I don't know how to explain it. It just sits better on your body, but it does use short rows, and so you do have to be comfortable using short rows if you're going to knit this construction style, which some people aren't comfortable knitting short rows. It's just, they just don't want to do it. They just don't want to deal with it. So, okay, we'll do this where we work the increases, and it works beautifully. It's fantastic. For some designs, the increases are going to be a way better choice than the short rows, but I would like you to feel comfortable with the short rows. I would like you to be happy with doing short rows. If you see a pattern that requires you to work short rows, I want you to feel confident that you can knit that sweater pattern, or whatever pattern it is. Knit that pattern that includes short rows without being scared of doing the short rows. So we're doing that class to do this one. It'll be a basic drop shoulder sweater made in beautiful yarn. This yarn is beautiful. I've wanted to knit with it for years, and I finally am. So that will be coming out this winter. Excuse me, I gave myself a big amount of leeway for developing this pattern and filming the video and the whole works, because I know I'm going to need a lot of time for that, and so I am giving myself a lot of time for that. I've already done the neckline. I picked up the neckline before the sleeves, and I'm doing a double folded neckline, but it fits too tight. I know that the underlying structure of the neckline, like how wide it is and how deep it is good. So I either picked up too few stitches, like there's not enough stitches in the neckline and so it's sucking in too much, or this yarn is just really bouncy and the ribbing is just really enthusiastic about its job. So I'm going to knit the sleeves, both sleeves, and then I'm going to block it. I'm going to see if the neckline ribbing relaxes, because sometimes when you have a bouncy yarn, before you block it, the ribbing will be really tight, but then when you do block it, it relaxes significantly. So I'm going to block it before I rip anything out. And then if it's still too tight when I block it, then I'll rip this neckline out and pick up more stitches and then do it again, and that should be fine. But I mean, before you rip something out, it's good to give it a block. Even if your sweater is partially done and you're blocking it when it's partially done, I do think it's a good idea to just block things before you rip them out, because then you can see how it's actually going to end up in the end, because sometimes yarn behaves differently before it's been blocked versus after it's been blocked. So this is Deep Moss. It is beautiful. I have knit it long enough to wear with jeans, and there it is. This color is called Wanderlust, and I just love it. This beautiful dark green. I am in love with it. It's my favorite color, it really is. So that is all of my knitting that I am going to share with you today. I encourage you to sign up for my email newsletter if you have not already done so. My email newsletter will be the first place where I tell you that the yarn is released. You'll also get special discounts on pattern releases. I occasionally write educational content that I send out to my newsletters. So it is a good place to be signed up for. I never do any spammy emails because I don't have time to write spammy emails. So, sign up for my email newsletter, like this video, and subscribe to my channel. And when I come back for the next video, which hopefully won't be too very long, I'll have some more beautiful sweaters to share with you. So until next time, happy knitting. Bye.